Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Worthy Podcast. This is Annie Gardner, where we're going to talk about boldness meets purpose. Join us as we explore powerful stories of faith, resilience, and courage, embracing the challenges that shape us and stepping confidently into the calling God has placed on our lives. Let's have the conversations that truly matter. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Worthy Podcast, where we talk about being bold and doing hard things. We are having an amazing guest today. She's actually a personal friend of mine for this is wild that I'm going to say this, over 20 years. And I'm excited to dig into that. Sandy Yozipovic, thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor, Annie.
Yes, it's an honor to talk to you. And for those of you who don't know, I actually did a women's conference in 2020, actually, January 2020. It was called Be Bold, and you were one of my speakers. And I know that the feedback then from women, I know you, so I know that you're super powerful. Yes, you're an amazing speaker, but that's because of your testimony and of the business that you built with Mark, your husband. So I want to talk about first, because I think it's really important to lay out how I know Sandy. My mom worked with Sandy, and you all are still really good friends.
Yes, family.
Yes, we're family because actually, I'm going to skip a little section. Sandy introduced me to Joey's dad. So I will never forget that because Joey's the best thing that's ever happened to me. But I met Sandy because at the time when I was in college, she had been a patient of this naturopathic clinic called Invita in Scottsdale, Arizona. And when I was in college, I had severe allergies. My skin was like sandpaper for 2 years, and I had strep throat every month. And so something was wrong with my body. And Sandy told my mom, "You have to get Annie into the clinic." And I did. And I haven't had strep throat ever since. And I'm 41 right now. And at the time I was 20. And my body has completely healed. I also worked at Invita after college. It was my first real job, heading the nonprofit and also working with patients before anyone knew what naturopathic, holistic, functional medicine was. I was 21 working in the field and firsthand learning from Sandy, Dr. Dino, and all the amazing doctors that were on staff. And so that's just a little bit of my background that I really don't talk about. But Sandy, I want you to talk about how your health journey took you to that functional naturopathic holistic realm, and that was over 20 years ago. 20 years ago.
That's great. Great memory, because that was I was diagnosed 23 years ago on September 7th of 2001 with a stage 3 colon cancer. By the time I had my emergency surgery on September 11th, 2001, they'd stopped all surgeries at the Mayo that day except for mine and another patient that was an open heart surgery that they had started. I was being prepped at 5 a.m. in the morning, and my doctor decided to go ahead with the surgery. Thank God, because by the time we were done the surgery, it was actually a 6-hour surgery. It was supposed to only be 2 or 3. He had opened me up and he said, "Okay, this is bad." I was diagnosed stage 4. It already had spread. So I had a tumor that was doubling in size every 24 to 48 hours. So aggressive was an understatement, because he hadn't seen anything like that in 20 years of his service in his practice. So he was blown away, and my prognosis wasn't good. I mean, I was given a 30% chance at the Mayo. I flew to Sloan Kettering 2.5 weeks when the flight started again back up to New York to visit Sloan Kettering for another opinion. And they gave me a 20% chance of survival, so it was getting worse. So, you get these seeds planted in you. And then the Mayo, my doctors, my radiologist and oncologist said, look, they pulled Mark aside and said, I think you need to get your affairs in order. There is a 99% chance that this will be back within the first year because it had already spread through my lymphatic system, through the rectum. Their standard protocol was 6 months of chemo and radiation, no matter what you're diagnosed with, or that is the standard in major cancer centers, and that you complete that 6 months of chemo and radiation. But just before we'd flown to Sloan Kettering, the day I got out of the Mayo Hospital, I actually was given a referral to go see a naturopath doctor that was brilliant, outside of the box thinker. And they said, you might want to it was a friend at our gym, one of our trainers, that said, I think you need to go see this guy. And that's who introduced us to Dr. Dino Prado. He had just graduated. He was 26 years old. And he had his office set up. So I'm seeing him on a Friday, and he's opening his first practice on the following Monday. So I'm seeing him in a plaza in an office building after hours, set up in a lobby at the airport in Scottsdale.
Wow.
Yeah, so I walk in and I'm like, I see his little sister at the front desk. She's got a little visa thing. There's a couple people in chairs with IV poles in the lobby. I'm looking at my husband. I'm like, oh my Lord, where did you just bring me? Like, I don't feel good. I don't want to do this. And he goes, we're just going to do it. We have to check it out. My husband was very determined to find a solution and not just accept what had been the sentence that we had been given.
Yes.
And so I thank God for that, because he had more faith in that process than I did at the time. I was, kind of in shock still of being diagnosed and what's the next step. And, nobody knows what to do when you're diagnosed. You're just kind of part of that system, and you just follow the bouncing ball that everybody else does. And so we were, I guess, disruptors in that process. My husband was great at that, because he says, well, that's what they have to offer. What else is there? Because we know there's got to be more. There's got to be more, because they've been doing the same thing for 100 years. Well, we walked into the boardroom, and Dr. Prado was in there. He was set up. Excuse me, that was his... Sorry about that. Sorry.
Water.
That was his makeshift office. And what was cute about him is, although he looked like Doogie Howser, and I looked at my husband, I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Doogie Howser is going to save me. But it was really out of, fear that I was coming in there going, okay, what do you have that's going to be different or better? And he actually was the first doctor out of the 3 specialists that I'd seen that said, Sandy, what you have is really, really bad. He goes, but if you're 100% coachable to what I ask you to do, you've got a shot.
Wow.
And I went, I've got a shot? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, I go, okay, so what's the first step? Like, well, I already know what I got to do at the Mayo. I begin my chemo and my radiation. We're good. I know what's happening there. And then what? And he says, well, first off, we're going to pray. I'm like, what? 26-year-old doctor that just graduated is praying with his patients. And he prayed the spirit of fear right out. And that's where I learned to trust. And it was just a calming sensation in that room to know, okay, God's got this. Yeah. But what happened after that is, when we made the decision to just go, so I had to do my chemo and radiation at the Mayo for the first 4 months, and every day I would leave and drive back to Invita to Dr. Dino's practice, and I did my immunotherapy. Sometimes it took me 5 hours, sometimes it was 7-hour days, because all of my IVs, all of my treatments had to be done intravenously through my hands.
Right.
And because I had a PICC line for the chemo. So that was it, and that was, to say that was difficult is an understatement. It was, you didn't know what you were going to get every day, how long the process was going. And we had 2 young kids. We had a business that we were growing, a financial services company. We just expanded to the U.S. a couple of years prior. So this was a time-consuming and mentally and emotionally draining experience to have to happen, and physically, all at once. And when we made the decision after 4 months, I actually made the choice to just go with Dr. Prado, because I saw that I was getting better. I felt better. I didn't look like a chemo or a cancer patient. I looked healthy, vibrant. I had more energy. I did only lost some of my hair, not all of my hair. My hair pretty much stayed intact. So I'm like, okay, there's got to be something to this. So I stopped my treatments at the Mayo after 4 months. You would have thought I killed somebody, and I was like going down and following some gypsy in the desert off over the cliff. Then
Right.
when we told our family and friends, they were like, what are you doing? Like, you need to trust your doctor. You need to trust your doctor. I'm like, well, I am. I have too. But I also know I've been educated in this process the last 4 months. I've read all the studies that Dr. Prado shared with me. I read all the proof. I read all the testimonies that had been dating back to the 1930s that there was a cure for cancer. So right away, I was engulfed in righting a wrong, in seeing the corruption in even the health insurance industry. And why that is because my husband and I are in the financial services industry. So we were educating families on how money works. And we were kind of taking business away from banks and insurance companies that were, for a lack of a better word, screwing people.
Yeah.
Not educating families on the true value of money and how you can have money, work in your favor over time, and everyone can be financially free if they follow the steps. So this is no difference. It was almost like now I'm in the health insurance industry going, wait a minute. I had United Health, which was like the best for independent contractors, was one of the best plans, a Mayo plan. We had the premier plan. When I got diagnosed, I had an 80%, 20% right copay.
Yeah.
So my 20%, after only 4 months of my chemo and radiation and my surgery, the insurance company was paid over $500,000 for my treatments to go to the Mayo. That's how inflated these prices are.
Yeah.
My 20% that I owed, that was saving my life after going to that wasn't part of saving my life, was I owed $120,000 to United, to the Mayo Clinic after that. And I'm like, you can't afford to get sick in this country.
No.
So then it became a crusade to show everybody, guys, like, you can't afford to get sick here because insurance is not going to cover the very treatments that work, and yet you can get more treatments for half the cost, less than half the cost, and your life is intact. You don't have, because what people don't understand is there's a whole crusade here, because people don't understand that chemo can lie dormant for 15 years in your system. Well, what are you doing to flush out that chemotherapy? What are you doing to flush out that toxicity? So every day I would take chemo in and it would be chemo out, only keeping enough chemo inside that it can take care of the cancer cells, but you still have a quality of life.
Right.
You don't have a death sentence, because what I looked at, what I was doing with integrative medicine, with the immunotherapies combined with the traditional medicine, I was stacking the odds in my favor.
Right.
So then when I survived, and even my doctors at the Mayo, and they were like, well, we don't know how this has happened.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen anyone with your completely just go back to life, and even then some. But
Right.
I was on a whole nother crusade
Right.
to educate as many people as possible. And I've had five of my close family members, my sister, my niece, my dad, my sister-in-law, my two been treated successfully at Invita Medical Center. So
Right.
there is definitely a need for what they do. And I'm
Right.
just one of the, many of thousands now
Yeah.
that have been saved and chose that path.
Right. Yeah, because 20 years ago, it wasn't normal. And I know firsthand only because when I had Joey, I didn't, we said no. I said no to all of the shots. And when I went to my pediatrician, I did find someone that I said, hey, I'm not going to do the shots. And I ended up going to the only pediatric naturopath, which is in Tempe, Arizona. His name is Dr. Burrell. I don't know if he still practices, but he said, if you feel the need to do any immunizations, do the 1983 schedule. And I ended up doing some of them on that. And now it's a joke. I tell him, like, don't let anyone give you a shot. He's older now. He could refuse it. But just the way that now the media paints, um, I guess they think that because you are right in your political views, that this is why you think that politics were not the way they are today 20
No.
years ago. And I, for one, know firsthand what it was to be bullied, ridiculed because I chose naturopathic, all of the holistic things. When Joey had severe asthma, I took him to the only naturopathic functional medicine doctor that I knew in Arizona and cleaned him out. Joey has no asthma today because we naturally healed him. And I know that the Lord uses these people and these natural remedies to heal us, along with the treatments that you did, Sandy. What other lifestyle changes that did you
Oh,
do?
yeah, that's important too because that it's a whole. It's God first, and then healing the body, which is nutrition. You need to have the faith intact, and that's what I loved about Invita. Invita in Latin stands for in life. Everything's about life. And so, you have to look at food as what is it serving to your body for longevity and quality of life. You can eat, because it's easy to just go and grab whether it be a bag of chips or a chocolate bar, but is there any nutritional value that's going to add years to your life or quality of, and that really
Right.
was the biggest factor. Is Dr. Prado taught me immediately, not only how important prayer is, but now we're going to attack the nutritional part. We're going to change your diet completely. And everyone is different and everyone responds differently. And it's usually based on your blood type. There's 4 different blood types. So there really are 4 different, I guess, food plans, nutrition plans that you can use. Mine happen to be pescatarian, Mediterranean diet. So a lot of the good oils, the good fats, right, with the fish, organic wild fish, organic fruits and vegetables. And isn't it sad that we have to pay more to be healthy because you pay less for toxic foods.
Yes.
Everyone who's going into a grocery store and they're not shopping organic, you're not doing yourself any favors. You
Right.
need to have just the way the system is, and now with our Robert Kennedy Jr. coming in and changing the system now, which I'm so excited about because I've been preaching this for over 23 years. About how important it is. Here's how I look at when you look at food. Dr. Prado always taught me when you walk in a grocery store, he says, everything you need is in the outside aisles, everything in the inside is the dead aisle.
That's good. That's good.
That and the physical always moving. The minute you stop moving, especially as we age, you can be in your 60s or 70s. Walking is probably the perfect thing. You just keep walking, keep 2, 3, 4 miles. My parents are in there. My dad is turning 91. He can do between 2 and 4 miles a day.
Wow.
He walks twice a day, making sure he puts in his mile or 2 in the morning and then in the afternoon.
That's amazing. Yeah, people do underestimate one, what they eat,
Yep.
two, moving their body. They think that moving their body means they have to do like a rigorous CrossFit workout. That's not what it means. It means you need to move your body because, I mean, the way I see it, I'm 41.
Yep.
In 20 years, maybe in
You'll be
15
my
years.
age.
Yeah, and I'll be a grandma. And I
Yeah.
want to be like you. I want to be the grandma that plays with the grandkids. I want to be healthy for my older kids. Like I want to be a active partner and person in their life. I don't want to be sick where they have to take care of me,
Yes.
you know? And I think that a lot of the feedback could be okay, it is, you just said, it's expensive to eat healthy. You know what? It's really expensive to be sick
Yes.
and to be unaware and to not ask the questions and to just go with whatever doctor. Working there also taught me that you are your biggest advocate
Yes.
for your
Yes.
spouse, for yourself, and for your children. Just because someone with the word doctor in front of their name doesn't mean that what they say is the ultimate, you know? Just because they're giving you a death sentence, no. God has a bigger plan.
Yes.
Question everything.
Yes.
Question everything. Like you said, Mark was your biggest advocate. Your husband was your biggest advocate. And how long ago was that?
Gosh, 23 years ago now.
Yeah, you have been cancer free for 23 years.
23 years. Mm-hmm. Going on 24 now. Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, that's wild. And and your doctor, which is astounding. I love it when you talk about how he didn't stop your surgery on 9/11.
No, that was all God, because you can't. He had to ask his team to stay. They'd taken 10 minutes out to have their discussion, and he just said something, which I know that something his God was nudging him to do it. And I was a young mom, 39 years old, with two young kids, and so
How
he
old
just.
were the kids at that time?
Christy was 8 and Cody was 13.
Wow.
Yeah, so it became a family, journey. They were brought in as well, not by choice, but they have learned. I mean, I have two. Thank you, Jesus. But I have two very healthy young adults, and they have always eaten organic. They don't. I'm a grandma now, and Christy's baby has had no vaccines, and this label that they put on everybody with anti-vax, it's not that. We're just very aware. We're very aware, and we question, why does a baby need formaldehyde? Why does a baby need aborted fetus cells and changing their DNA the first 12 hours of their life? They try to call it a vitamin K. There's no vitamin in it. It is not that. And when you question them, they do not like it. When you come back with more information than what they've been given, because it really is a sick care system designed to keep us dependent on big pharma and be patients for life. And we're on the other side educating, and Vita's known for educating, so you become your own doctor. You become the advocate for your health journey, not relying. And I think we learned all that through COVID. It's all coming out now, and everybody thought I was nuts. I was banned over 22 times on Facebook for posting the truth. But when you treat over 2,000 patients over a 2.5-year period at the Invita Medical Center, and they're all immunocompromised. They're all not, and 80% of them are stage 4 cancer patients or chronic Lyme disease patients, and we never lost one patient. What does that tell you? And none of the staff were vaccinated. In fact, what Invita did was, I thought it was quite good. All the nurses that were fired or refused the jabs were all out protesting one day, and so we recruited a lot of nurses from that too.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing. I
Yes.
didn't know that. See, those are
Yes.
the things that really need to take national headlines. I think
Yes.
that a lot of people during COVID, it is really sad. The amount of what I think are intelligent people
Yes.
that were making decisions based off of fear.
Yep.
One, because they didn't want to lose their jobs, and two, because they didn't know, they didn't question. They didn't
Right.
question. And so a lot of intelligent people that I knew were getting vaccinated because they weren't getting, because they were afraid of like losing their job or what would people say. And now with everything coming out about
Yes.
how, unsafe it was, the
It's
research
never
was,
been it's never been safety tested. But here's the thing: is if you knew anything about vaccines, not one vaccine has been safety tested since the beginning. Not one. And so when you understand that, and that's what Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Robert Kennedy Jr., when Dr. Fauci was challenging Robert Kennedy in the news and calling him a liar, that, the vaccines have never been tested. Name me one, show me one study where it's tested. And Robert Kennedy, it went under the rug, but he won the lawsuit. Robert Kennedy Jr. won that lawsuit and proved in court that not one vaccine has been safety tested. So what does that tell you about our news? What does that tell you about the control of what they want us to know and what they want us to see? And so, the wake-up call was COVID for everyone, and we're just at the right place at the right time. That was the time we start questioning. I mean, we should have been questioning things before, but now it is. I mean, I am proud to be what they call, which was a stigma that they were trying to attach when Robert Kennedy came out in 2012. Anti-vaxxers. Oh, no. We're pro-safety. We're prove me. We're pro.
Yeah.
I'm going to protect my children until you can
Yeah.
show me otherwise. But otherwise, my kids are fine. They're healthy. They've never been vaccinated since
Yeah.
we moved in '97. In Canada, it was not even. We were in business for ourselves. I was so busy building a business, I didn't pay attention to it. It was never a thing. It was not a mandatory. It was not even. Oh, if you need this, get this. You need the measles. You need that. But what people don't understand is in 1983, '84, I was a quadriplegic for almost a
Yes.
year with Guillain-Barré syndrome from vaccine injury from the MMR vaccine.
Wow.
So when you see that that Guillain-Barré syndrome, which nobody had ever heard of it in 1983, 1982, 1984, nobody had ever heard of that. In my hometown, I come from a small town of about 10,000 people. In my hometown, in high school, 1 year apart exactly, one of us kids out of that high school, which there's 400 kids in the whole high school, in that grade, so there'd
Yeah.
be 100 kids in that grade. One of us got Guillain-Barré syndrome for 3 years in a row, and then they pulled that. They pulled whatever they were putting, the adjuvant, into the vaccine out of it. It was a test. I failed
Wow.
the test miserably. It cost me my health.
Oh my
But
God.
no, I had 3 neurologists. Nobody could tell me why I got Guillain. Nobody. You looked it up. There was no Google back then. If you looked up there was no research, nothing ever said about Guillain-Barré syndrome. Nothing. And then that ended up being in the top 3 side effects of the COVID vaccine. I'm like, hell no. Do you guys not see what this is? It's the heart issues, it's turbo cancers, and Guillain-Barré syndrome, neurological issues. So that is what we're seeing now coming out. And what people don't understand is over 17 million people have either died or been injured from these worldwide, from these vaccines. Almost 2
Wow.
million just in the US. So, we're finding out after the fact. They're trying to keep that information down, but I'm on the transition team for the Make America Healthy Again and being a part of the Invita Medical Center, and launching the first ever integrative healthcare plan. I get all these stats every single day, to my phone of what's coming out and what's going on.
Talk about that. How did that? So I did forget, and I already knew this, that you did have Guillain-Barré syndrome, and you came back, and then, like, when I say came back, your health, like, you talk about being resilient, Sandy, and being bold. Because someone meets you today, they have no idea. And I love to talk about this on here because people see beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful house, uh, has it together. She's so bold. She's so lucky. But I'm sorry, no. Let's talk about your life and all the challenges that you chose not to define you. You chose to be bold and walk in the calling that God placed in your life. You're doing it with authority, and you're saying no just because I was sick when I was young, just because I had a death sentence of cancer, doesn't mean that I'm going to succumb to this. You're speaking out for what is truth.
Yes, but thank you. And you know what? That is, it doesn't matter what, everybody has issues or challenges in life. I mean, like we literally are born onto a battleship. Everybody thinks we're born on a cruise ship and life should just be wonderful every day. But your character is developed through the tough times, not the great times.
Yeah.
And so, just to share my journey, when I had Guillain-Barré syndrome and I was in the hospital, my parents were 2.5 miles away. We lived on a farm, and so the big city was 2.5 hours away. And so I was in the hospital pretty much by myself. My parents had come to visit the first week, 10 days that I was in there. And all I remember is on the ninth night, I'll never forget it, they brought in both my grandparents, both sets of grandparents, and my mom and dad, and a priest, and into my hospital room. I'm 21. I'm naive, but I know what's going on.
Yeah.
And they just wanted the priest to meet me, know who I was. And nobody has really any words to say because everybody's in shock. And my mom and dad, my mom, I think, was just holding it together. My dad had no words, because this is their child. I get it. This is their baby, their middle baby. And what the heck, nobody knows what's going on. All of a sudden, I have the motor skills within 10 days of a 6-month-old baby. Can't swallow, can't blink, can't talk. I have double vision. It paralyzes all the muscles in your body. Well, what I learned is when they left that night, they all left about 7 o'clock. Next thing you know, the night nurse brings in and the doctor bring in a life support system. And they said, this is just for precaution. This disease is progressing very fast. Your heart and your lungs are muscles. That's the first time I learned that they were muscles. And I'm like, they are? Yeah, and the way the paralysis is going is it's doing this. And we want to make sure, because it started with half my face, went through my extremities, and now it's doing this. So all I have left is my heart and my lungs. Once that goes, that's death. And so when they leave you with that, now your parents are gone and you're by yourself and you're 21 and you're in your room and you got the next 24 hours to go, I don't know where this is going to end up.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a good thing. But I'll never forget just, talking to God. It was me and God in the room only that night, and the machine's right beside me to my right. And I'll never forget, I said, okay, Lord, here's how this is going to go. I do not know what any of this is all about. I do not understand why me. I know I'm asking why me. I don't understand it, so I'm just going to put that in the back pocket. But if this is what you want for my life, that you want to use me as a testimony or as a servant to be the poster child for the MS Society. So originally for 9 months, I was diagnosed with acute MS. So it wasn't, I didn't until my third spinal tap, I was diagnosed Guillain-Barré syndrome, which never heard of before.
Okay.
So with MS, the myelin insulation around the nerve endings gradually is sheared off. With Guillain-Barré syndrome, it's immediately shears off within a matter of days or weeks, and then eventually it may or it may not grow back to a certain degree. I was very fortunate to regain all of my functions, my eyes, my eyesight, my ability to swallow, talk, everything.
Yeah.
So, but what happened is that night when it stopped, it never went any further. I aligned with God. I hate to say I made a deal, but it was really like, okay, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. If you just show me what you want out of this, because I have no clue, I'm yours. And I think when you give yourself up and not time, I'm by nature a control freak. Mm-hmm. So for me to do that was like complete surrender. Yeah. And okay, you got this, because I got nothing. I got nothing left. And and dang it, if it didn't stop, the paralysis stopped that night. The doctors come in the next morning, and he's like, "How you feeling?" I'm like, "The same." And he goes, "Well, it hasn't moved." Now it stayed like that for 4 more months, but it didn't grow. And that's what they couldn't. Like, okay, it's just staying there. It's just staying there. Okay, well, we're gonna put her in rehab and do all these things. I discharged myself 3 times out of the hospital because mentally it wasn't for me. To be in there at that age, I didn't like to hear all the other patients, the moaning and groaning, and it was just mentally I needed to be in a sanctuary, and so my poor parents had to take care of me, and I've since paid them back tenfold. I'm very grateful that they put up with me, but that was part of my healing journey. I needed to be in the right mindset and the right environment in order to heal properly. And so I thought, once I regained, and the doctors had told me I'd never walk again, I'd never be able to have kids ever, and I'm like, wow, so when I go, and I was actually engaged to someone at that time.
Oh, okay.
And then that fell through because it was very hard on him.
Yeah.
For this process. I don't blame it. That was God's choice for me. It was the wrong one. So that's okay, because it was harder on him than he said on me. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you, Lord. I needed that sign. But then, once a year and a half later, I moved back to the big city, and by chance, through mutual friends, I meet Mark. And that was where my whole new journey started out. I never used Guillain-Barré syndrome. My immune system was weakened somewhat. So I did have, on our dates, I would have major Charlie horses when my nerve endings were coming together, and my muscles, and I would just be in major. And poor Mark is on a date, and we're driving, he has to pull over and massage my legs, and he's like, what the heck is this? Because I didn't want anyone to know that I had, a health issue. And literally 4 months later, he proposed to me. And I said, but I can't have kids. I don't think I can have kids. He goes, I'll take my chances. And I knew that was the man that God intended for me. And I was able to have two healthy children. And we've been married 36 years, almost
Wow,
32
let's
years now
go.
together. So, I mean, God is amazing. But, it's knowing that the plans that God has for you may not make sense. But if you have the inner courage, and I think if you have the inner courage is what comes out on the outside after you step forward. And I
Yeah.
always have this on my computer. I have it right in front of me right here now. That's why I think it's the perfect time. It says fear is only in the absence of faith. And
Yes.
so, when you're diagnosed with something, it's not a death sentence. It just means it's a test. It's a test to see, it's a test of your faith, it's a test of your perseverance, it's a test of everything
Yeah.
that creates you and your character. So if there's anything that I've learned throughout all of the years is, you know what, it might not make sense to anyone else, but it makes sense to God, and God is bigger and greater than anything or
Yes.
anyone, and no
Yeah.
one can take the prize away. Because God has anointed you to, and it's not that I am definitely not the best in Bible reading and doing my devotionals. I'm like ADD. I start reading, I'm like, well, there comes another idea. So I know God is working in me. I'm a work in progress still to this day. But boy, when I get those God nudgers, or I know something is set, you can't get me up. That is all God. It's a knowing. And I said to Mark, I said, after meeting Dr. Prado, and he was so young, I loved his heart. I loved his faith. I loved how strong he walked and
Yeah.
his faith and
Yeah.
talked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can learn from this. Okay, God just gave me a brother in Christ. I have two sisters. I have no brothers. I'm like, okay, God, this is what it's like to have a brother. And I've learned so much just to have that calm,
Yeah.
that assurance that
Yes.
God's got this, no
Yes.
matter what. And I really believe he does. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten through. And God had led me to all of these amazing people like you, your family, Dr. Prado, and all of that we've overcome with the Invita Medical Center and getting rid of the stigma of natural medicine. And now integrative medicine is at the forefront of everything with
I
Make
know.
America Healthy Again. I mean,
Yeah.
this is God's journey. This is God. This is all God. You
Yes.
can't explain it any other way.
I know. And to your point, I want to go back in when you met Mark. I want to point out also, like for the audience, who you marry matters.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Your
Yes.
spouse matters, and then your friends matter because you can have your husband advocated for you, and then your friends spoke life into you.
Yes.
Who you surround yourself with. I tell Joey, he's 17. Who you surround yourself with. It says it in the Bible. Show me your friends and I'll show you who you are.
Yep. And
And
that's the
so,
inner circle. Yeah, that is your inner circle. That is your sanctuary. And you're going to lose some friends along the way. It's okay. It's just that some people come in your life for a season and
yes,
for a reason.
yes,
But I'll tell you what, that inner core, that inner circle that God has anointed with, they're not perfect. But they
no,
got you. They got your back.
yeah,
And that's what matters in life. And you might be, if you can find 5 people, in one hand that you can call your friends for life, you are blessed. You are beyond blessed.
yes,
It's not
yeah.
50.
No, it's not. And then God uses imperfect people all the
Yes.
time. Throughout the entire Bible, he uses imperfect people all the time. Today, he still uses imperfect people all the
Yes.
time. And so, okay, you mentioned Robert Kennedy Jr. and what you're doing with his organization. I don't know about it. Like,
Yeah.
tell me more about it.
Well, it's funny, through COVID, Dr. Prado and I have been talking for, well, gosh, years, because I said, you can't afford to get sick in this country. And then majority of the bankruptcies right now, especially in the state of Arizona, is just one example, but this is in every state, that 65% of all bankruptcies that happened last year in the state of Arizona were due to medical bankruptcy. So that is someone who is diagnosed or was in an accident and they can't pay their medical bills. They had to declare bankruptcy. What that tells you is you think it would be, in the tens of thousands that would have to happen. Do you know the average claim what caused the bankruptcy was $700 is, yeah, that's how broke families are today. I'm in financial
Wow.
services, so I know this, but I
Yeah.
was shocked to learn the medical part of the bankruptcy. They are the leading cause of bankruptcies is the medical system. So, Dr. Prado and I knew the system was broken 23 years ago. I've been a patient advocate ever since. Everybody says, do you have a resume? I go, yeah, well, it's God. So God's my resume. I don't have a degree. I've never really worked a job that I've ever been paid at except before I got into Primerica. But
Isn't it amazing though?
yeah, I don't my resume is God. It's all God because God has led me to everything that I'm passionate about and doing in my life today. And so, with that, we've been talking about creating a healthcare plan where the integrative finally is going to be at the forefront and all the costs will be covered. All these treatments, because Invita Medical Center, as of April this year, so now they've expanded, Annie, just so you know, we started in that little hole in the wall on Shea, then we moved into the new building where you moved in, that one. Now they have another campus, which is right beside, they own that building next door. Now
Okay.
they own a 30,000 square foot pharmacy, their own compound pharmacy, another
Wow.
40,000 square foot building where their headquarters and their interventional radiology surgical center is now, with a full radiologist, specialists, and oncologists that reside there, and their team of nurses and doctors. And then they have a new 140,000 square foot, 3-story medical building that's being built right now, right in that
Wow.
1 mile radius. It's
Okay.
all off of Pima and
Okay.
Bell. And then they have their other center, Hermosia, in the medical research facility in Hermosia. They have a whole floor dedicated for Invita patients and doctors that just
Wow.
serve Invita patients. And then they have
Wow.
their 25,000 square foot manufacturing warehouse.
I
Well,
did not know that. Okay, so
yes,
next time I go to Arizona, I'll be there in
coming for a
January.
tour.
I'm
Yeah.
coming for a tour, and maybe I can sit down actually with Dr. Prado.
Yeah, that would be great. He'd love to see you. Yeah, so because we do a tour usually on Mondays at 1 o'clock
Okay.
for the we tour about 4 of the campuses. Well, 5. We drive by the one because it's not completed yet because they're all within a 2-block radius. So we will set that up for you, and then we do the presentation on the first ever. This is a launch integrative healthcare plan for all. We started with launching this year in March with employers groups. So any business owners that have anywhere from 25 employees and up, all the way up to the thousands, can now have access to the best of both worlds, the combination of conventional traditional medicine and the integrative component, which is advanced technology in immunotherapy, non-invasive surgeries. Like they have what they use is SIPI, a chemo infusion, where they go in with a catheter that's smaller than a hair follicle, and they can go right up either through the vein in your leg, or they can go right into the tumor directly in the breast or wherever it is, and they infuse a fractional targeted amount of chemo, about 10%, plus other agents that kill cancer cells, and then your body flushes it out. This isn't so. The study came out that they take, this is all stage 4, late stage cancer patients. Out of the top 200, the 200 in the study, not top 200, of the 200 in the late stage study, they had 3,500% greater outcomes,
Wow.
longevity, and survivors compared to every other cancer center in the U.S.
Now, is this plan only for Arizona residents, or
No,
can someone in,
national.
like, I'm in Texas, so
Yes,
can someone be a part of that?
yes.
Yes.
All
Okay.
over the country. We have companies that were onboarding their employees all over the country. There's no,
Wow.
yeah. So in coming in January, I'll let you know in the new year, because we just had a meeting yesterday. I've got another meeting on Monday. We've got Senator Shamp that's championing this with the HHS, as well as Robert Kennedy, because they want to make America great again, and healthy again, I should say. And so we had one of Robert Kennedy Jr.'s transition team fly in on November 11th and came to the tour, and she nominated Dr. Prado, on the committee of 40 with Robert Kennedy, because what the Invita Healthcare Plan offers is structure and a solution, and Dino started it. He built the healthcare plan because he went to every Blue Cross, United, Aetna, every one of the BUCAs in the health insurance industry, and showed him what he had, what he was going to do. They all refused it, so he created his own. It's called Invita Health.
Wow.
And he was the first one to onboard. He has now over 280 staff, okay? He has over 26 doctors, 47 RNs.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
No, I called and I said, "Can I please speak to Dr. Prado?" And they're like, "Who are you?"
They have a whole team.
He's like, "He's not in this building." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah. Yeah, he's not. He's at the headquarters now. Yeah, so he never really gets to the campus.
Yes,
He's got
okay.
a whole slew of doctors and nurses that handle everything. Yeah, I can't wait for you to see it. You have to see
Yeah,
it.
I'm excited. Yeah, we'll definitely need to have him connect us on just because wow, it would be when I met Dr. Prado, I was 21. I was in college because when I graduated college, the economy was booming. So
Yeah.
I graduated in 2005. The economy was booming. I got a real job it was between a university and Invita, Dr. Prado, and I remember that my salary was going to be a lot less, and I wasn't going to have insurance, like typical
Yeah.
insurance. And my dad was asking me, okay, like, why would you work there versus here? And I'm like, you know what? I just feel something that attracts me to their mission and what
Yeah.
they're doing, and I can't say no. And my dad was like, okay, then it was the Lord, but like that gut
Yes.
feeling. And I started, working there, and it was very eye opening. Also because the age of these doctors, right?
Yes. They're all young. They're only like a few years older than you.
Correct. I was 21 and they were 27, 26.
Yeah.
And people would ask me and what would they call it back then? Quacks.
Yes.
You're working for these quacks. And I'm
Yep.
like, well, no, because I saw firsthand what they were doing. And honestly, you have been the poster child. I mean, talk about great PR. Public relations is free. Okay.
Yeah.
Marketing is paid advertisement. Public
Yeah.
relations is free. Have been the greatest PR asset, but it's based off of one, you survived, your
Yeah.
testimony, your boldness, and you even do you still have are you still tied is there a nonprofit still tied to it?
No, you know what happened? We had the nonprofit, and we had so many kids that I don't want to say the names, but the Phoenix Children's Hospital here, we had an agreement because we had so many kids coming through Invita through our foundation. And word of mouth spreads through parents when they have a sick child. Where can you go? Where can you go? Where can you go? And we had 4 kids in 1 month that Phoenix Children's Hospital refused to sign off for the kids to get their ports to start their treatments. And so it became very political. And
Yes.
so we just had to close it down in 2018, but we had a good 15-year run.
Yeah, that was great.
But now would be the times are changing. And now with the integrative healthcare plan and your kids are going to be covered, it takes care of all of that. So it's all
That's
part of
amazing.
it was all
Yes,
part of the
it's-
learning curve in the journey to how we know what to do, what not to do, who's on board, who's open to it, who's
Right.
not. Yeah.
If
And
if
people
someone
want it.
wanted to get started right now
Yeah.
in changing their health, in changing, a chronic disease that they have or their wife or husband has, what would be like the first few steps that you would suggest them to do as someone who bought into being a partner, healing your body?
That's a great question because that's the first thing everyone does, and I get calls, daily, from people all over North America. What do you recommend with this? Well, they might not be sick enough to come to Invita. Invita usually is the taking care of the late stage, the chronically sick, because what happens is we get the patients that the conventional system has failed them. They're on their second time, their cancer came back. Well, that's because 90% of the time, people that are on chemo are on the wrong kind. And so when you know those numbers and those stats, you know it's just a matter of time. That system's going to fail them. They're going to have to go somewhere else because they've got to they have no choice but to rebuild their immune system and then be with the chemo that's matched to their genetics, to their DNA. And that's what Envita is known for, is precision care. It's precision medicine based on your own genetics. So you and I could have the same cancer. We'd have two different complete protocols. Your cost would be completely different than mine.
Right.
It's so, with people that are just starting up for wellness, I say find a very good naturopathic doctor in your neighborhood or in your community. Look at interview them, go meet them, talk to them. It's going to take a while to find maybe the one that you really connect with that makes sense. But they are out there and they are waiting to educate you. The naturopaths educate. I found that the MDs and that kind of, when you go in for a doctor, I know this from personal experience. I go to my family doctor, you're in there for 10, 15 minutes and you're out. You might prescribe a pill, or they might send you to another. Everything's done in a referral. You're not getting any answers.
Yeah.
And so with a naturopath, when they do your blood work, that's why I say find a good one that's thorough. You do your blood work. I'm telling you, you come back and you have a roadmap of exactly where you're at today, and they can help get you started on your health journey so that in 5 years, 10 years, they can foresee things in your blood that you might not, a regular doctor's not going to look for. Because most doctors run, your lipids test, they run your blood pressure. That has nothing to do with optimal health. It's part of it, but they make everything about the blood pressure or cholesterol, and yet everybody's on cholesterol drugs that aren't good for them, that have all these side effects, and it's causing more issues long term. And so our goal at Envita, or a naturopath's goal, is to get you off of those medications.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine literally had, I'm not kidding, a dozen, he had a dozen medications on a golf tournament with my husband. And Mark took a picture of it and he sent it to me, and I'm like, oh, he can't be on that. Are you kidding me? So Mark had to gingerly go, okay, you need to get this together. Go see a different doctor, please. Your doctor is just pushing pills. You've got all these issues. You can't lose weight. You're feeling lethargic because of all the chemistry in your body is completely confused.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing there that's helping you live the healthy life. And so he went to a different doctor and got off all his medications. All.
Wow.
He's lost 25 pounds. He's back in the gym. It looks like a different person. All happened within a 4 to 5 month period.
Wow. Yeah. There's significant changes that can happen
The
during that.
naturopaths I've learned are the internal specialists. Especially if they're into homeopathy, any of that is all added to their decisions on what they're going to treat or how they're going to treat you with whatever it's all based on not just the symptoms, finding the cause.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. So I think, health-wise, you can find, intermittent fasting is probably one of the greatest things that's helped me. I know that's a big fad, but I've been doing this for now 3-4 years, and with great success, because less toxicity. Right? Especially with the wrong foods.
And your body needs time to heal.
Intermittent fasting, every time you intermittent fast, you get it to that 18, 19 hour, 16 hour to 19 hours of sweet zone. Your body is rejuvenating all new healthy cells.
Yeah.
So your body has time to repair, but every time you put food in, now your body's adjusting to how does it get rid of this? How does it get rid of that? So it's not just what you put in, it's when you put it in that I realized that's a whole nother science. Because they had to remove 2/3 of my rectum from this in the emergency surgery. So I basically don't have that. I'm missing 16 inches of my intestine. So it took me 5 years without a colostomy bag because they didn't want to give me one because of my age at 39. Had to retrain my entire bowels. I mean, it's not easy on your marriage, but it was a lot of embarrassing moments. I knew where every toilet was, no matter where I was going, just because you didn't know when things were going to start to release.
But that's real. And intermittent fasting, I mean, we're not doctors, but you have. That's one of the first things my husband and I will do. Intermittent fast. Or fast because it's healing. I mean, we fast for praying reasons, but we also fast separately for health reasons. And that
Yes.
is the first thing. If someone is sick in my family, I just told my mom this: fast, stop, fast, or drink water or bone broth and just do bone broth for 3 days and fast. But
You're
yes,
right on. It resets the immune system. It resets the metabolism. There's so many benefits for it.
yeah,
So I'm a big component, big believer in that. Is you want to start on your health journey, just fast for 16, 18 hours.
yeah,
Only
yeah,
eat in a window of 6 hours. We don't need to eat, especially as we age, you don't need that much. You
right,
need less as we age. You
yeah,
need the bulk of when you're in your teens and 20s and you're growing and your metabolism is high, but we can't eat the same in our
right.
20s when we're in our 60s. It's not going to
Definitely not.
happen.
Definitely not. Well, I want to
Especially,
thank you so much, Sandy, for taking the time. Definitely we'll have to revisit with you because we didn't even talk about how you and Mark built your financial business. So that's another time. And
yeah.
maybe when I'm in Arizona, we can do it that portion live. Um, and this season I definitely want to have conversations with men. I think that men have wisdom also.
Yes.
Yes, my audience is women, but I think that especially because I'm married and my husband is such a champion of me, and it took me a really really long time to find him. I want
Yes.
to honor men who champion women, and I think Mark and Dr. Prado, they do that. And so I hope that next time I can visit with them. So thank you
That would
so
be
much.
great.
That would be so great. I know that. I know that women and the audience will find this so powerful and valuable. And if people want to chat with you or find where they can follow you on social media or anywhere, where can they find you?
On Instagram, I'm on Instagram, S Yozipovic, I believe,
And I'll have it
Yozipovic.
on the show notes
Oh, good.
also.
Perfect. Yeah. And I'm on X, and that's where you're going to get all the truth.
Let's go.
And I'm also on Facebook as well. So,
Okay,
uh,
great. I'll put
yeah.
it in the show notes. But thank you so much, Sandy. I love you so much.
I love you
Thank
too.
you for
I'm
being
so
on
proud
here.
of you.
Thank you. All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening today to the Worthy Podcast. I hope that this episode impacted you and you found value. Please leave us a 5-star review and tell your friends, share and subscribe. It's absolutely free to help me spread the word. Thank you, and until next time.